Okay, so let's get going here. The first of the 5 things to consider when purchasing a rental property is understanding the spread. When I talk about the spread, that's just my term for taking what is your rental income potential minus your cost of mortgage, taxes, and insurance. The reason you obviously want to understand that is the more positive a spread, the better investment it is, right? The more money you'll have coming in to help offset, costs of repairs and other things that might pop up. And then if you have money over at the end of the day that you get to pocket. So the way we figure out the spread is first by looking at what the rental income potential is. Now, a lot of times when you're looking at investment properties, they're already being used as investment properties. So they're, for example, you might be looking at a 2-unit building, and if both renters are already living there paying $1,000 a month rent, you should feel pretty confident that $2,000 a month is the income potential. But one thing I always like to tell people is don't just take it at that as the gospel. Validate it yourself by going home and going on apartments.com or something else, finding that neighborhood. If it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, search for exactly that and any other amenities it might have and see what they're going for. If they're all going for something like $1,000 a month, then you should feel pretty good that is the income potential at this time. But if for some reason the average one's going for $600, you might want to have some concerns that if the people who are renting there now left, that you might not be able to get $1,000 for it again. And then similarly, if you're looking at a building that has no renters, let's say it's a new construction build, or someone used to live in one of the units, which is very common, like it's a 2-flat where they live in one and they have renters in the other and they're moving out, that you can use the same approach of just going to apartments.com or Craigslist or any of those to see what you can get for the unoccupied units. So once you understand your rental income potential, then you got to understand your costs. These days, most banks want to sell you a mortgage that also includes an escrow that pays for your taxes and your insurance. So, pretty easily, if you know the price of the house and what type of mortgage you want, you should be able to get a bank or a mortgage broker to tell you what a monthly payment would be pretty quickly. So let's say in this example where we had 2 units, each one paying $1,000 a month of rent for a $2,000 total income potential, that the mortgage with taxes and insurance was $1,600. So you take your $2,000 of income minus your $1,600 of cost, you got a spread of $400. Obviously, the bigger the spread, the better, because one thing you'll have to think about is that mortgage and those costs aren't going to be the only costs you're going to have. Things are going to break, things are going to go wrong, and what I like to suggest is the better the spread you have, or any spread you have, that you're letting that kind of build up for a while, not just pocketing the money you're spending on something else, so that when something does go wrong, you have the funds sitting there to help cover the expenses from that rental property. So there's not really a magic number on what's right, because obviously if you buy a more expensive house, odds are to repair things might be more expensive. You might be able to get away with a smaller spread for less expensive houses, but at the very least, it absolutely needs to be positive. And then after that, the bigger the better. The way I like to look at it is, let's say for example, we have a 2-unit house here in Chicago that last year had some water damage. There was a slow, leak behind the hot water heater that wasn't detected right away. And long story short, we had to tear up the entire floor, subfloor, all the way down to the joists, have professional mold remediators get in there because we got to make sure it's safe for the tenants, and then put it all back together. I think it cost something like $5,000. So in this example, at $400 a month of spread, it's roughly 13 months of spread it costs to handle that one thing. Now that definitely is a more expensive repair than what you should hope to happen on a regular basis, but you have to understand your financial situation, and let's say you had 2 things, just bad luck in a row like that, where you're going to maybe deplete all the spread money you built up. Do you have enough free cash from elsewhere that you can handle covering some of those costs? Or another common one is a tenant leaves and it takes you 2 or 3 months to find a new tenant where you're still having to pay your mortgage, but you're not getting the rental income. So that is, I think, the first thing I always look at. Right, we have 5 things we're going to talk about today, but there's no point in understanding the other pieces if you don't feel comfortable with the spread, because if you don't, it's not probably going to be a good investment in the first place. So you can probably just stop your search on that particular house at that right there.